Would Japan after World War II and Germany after World War II, would they be examples of nations who didn't forget and therefore they're still peaceful and loving and so forth? Well, relative, they're friends compared to the kind of enemies that they
That's
were.
right. Yeah, they would be examples of that, where there was remorse, after the disasters that took place.
Don't many people have a serious problem when they read the Bible and they see so much war in the Bible that they say, well, it seems like God in the Old Testament is sending people to war.
Yeah.
Can you explain that?
Yes, again, it's necessary to understand the purpose that God is working out, and that God is not surprised that when human beings decide to do it a different way, like for themselves. As an example, the nation of Israel, God provided a series of miracles to bring them out of their bondage and slavery to Egypt and to sort of make a nation out of them. They had barely gotten out or hardly gotten out of Egypt before they had problems, and that they wanted to take matters into their own hands. It seemed too difficult for them to trust God, to fight their battles, to provide additional miracles and all of that. And so that was one factor that God allowed them then to engage in some wars, but he also allowed them to learn some lessons, some very important lessons from it in regard to the important distinction between obedience and disobedience. Because you read the history carefully there over hundreds of years, and you find out that what happened is that when the people obeyed God, when that nation of Israel obeyed God, he blessed them in many, many ways, including the freedom from the wars. He kept their enemies at bay, or in some cases he intervened dramatically and killed even entire armies or whatever. But when they disobeyed, he allowed them to hurt, to be punished, to find out and to let it sink in that disobedience does bring a very undesirable result.
Well, Jesus did say that his kingdom is not of this world now,
right?
And therefore his servants should not fight. What's the ultimate solution? Because the Bible does actually have a lot of description of a time there will be no more war.
Yes.
Describe what is God getting at there? Is that because we're going to figure it out, or we'll never figure it out and he's going to have to
We'll never figure it out. Jesus Christ is going to need to return to the earth and, strangely enough, engage in war to put down the nations of this world who fight him at his return.
Now, he's God.
And he is God.
Is it smart to have a war with God?
Not smart at all.
I see.
Because there's no way to win that kind of war. But he's going to be the only one, he is the only one who can engage then in war. God is the only one who can engage in war and bring about peace. But there's another part to it. He's going to begin the process of changing human nature, of working with human beings, and it's described in many passages. There's a beautiful one in the book of Micah in the Old Testament where it talks about that return of the Messiah to the earth, and it talks about him teaching the nations, and it says that he will rebuke strong nations afar off. It's Micah 4 verse 3. They'll beat their swords into plowshares, their spears into pruning hooks. The very motto that we have in the United Nations building in New York City. Nation shall not lift up sword against nation, neither shall they learn war anymore. So there's a beautiful time coming when humanity will learn a much better way, but that will require a fundamental change in human nature.
And that is the big issue for people watching the program now. Do you believe that fundamentally human nature can be changed? Well, that's an inspiring topic, because in fact you can change your nature. You don't have to be living in a state of war, even in a world of war. And that's why we do the publishing that we do. This particular publication, What Happens After Death, will give you a clear idea of what happens to all these fallen soldiers that are dead. From the Bible standpoint, they're not lost. They're going to live again, and you're going to see them, every one of them. And that is a promise, but that isn't necessarily believed, that the popular ideas of going to heaven and hell as soon as you die and so forth, but that isn't what Jesus taught. You're going to find this fascinating to get the direction to look where in your Bible to find out what Jesus did teach, and it's very good news, as well as this publication you can get by simply calling the 800 number and going online to tomorrowonline.org and then ordering your issue and subscription to the good news. It's non-sectarian. It will, however, get you into thinking deeply about these spiritual issues, and it'll get you a confidence that you need in a world of war, because the wars are not over, unfortunately, as we've just heard, until man is really sick of it. But better than that, when God will come and he will finally guarantee there will be no more war. It's been great seeing you. Do watch the ad, and we'll see you on the next edition of Tomorrow.